If you've ever witnessed a car accident just before the crash and felt that swell of anxiety building up as you know what's about to happen, then you're probably prepared for today's video. And although we aren't talking about a car crash in this episode, you could describe what almost happened in today's video as a near-death experience for a small town in Wisconsin. Today's video comes to us from a brand new channel entering the auditing community called Constitution Cam. He has only posted a few videos so far, and according to his channel description, he's only 18 years old. And he's only been doing this for about 2 months now, so keep all that in mind while you're watching this. So Constitution Cam didn't really give us much to work with in the description of this video, but I was still able to figure out a few bits of context from the video. This took place on a sidewalk just outside the Associated Bank on 6th Street in Watertown, Wisconsin. The video was posted back in March, but I'm not sure when the actual encounter took place. Constitution Cam spent a few minutes filming different parts of the bank, and just as he was getting ready to leave, one of the employees from the bank confronted him.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Just taking some videos.
Of what?
Just anything I can see from the sidewalk, really.
For what reason?
Just for myself. I can't get into it right now.
Okay.
So
it's a security risk for you to be filming the bank and our customers. So I'm going to ask that you stop filming our customers in the drive up and our bank, okay?
I'm not gonna stop filming. So.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna be here too much longer. I mean, I don't know.
Okay. I'll have someone come and talk to you then, okay?
All right, sounds good.
What's your name?
I don't get my name.
Okay.
After this brief encounter, Constitution Cam decided to stick around and see if the police showed up. And of course, within a matter of minutes, Officer Higgins from the Watertown Police Department arrived on the scene.
Hello, can I just get your name and badge number so I know who I'm talking to?
Absolutely. Officer Higgins, badge number is 3529.
All right, nice to meet you. I would shake your hand, but
Yeah, looks like you.
yeah.
Rotator cuff? Or?
Labrum and bicep tendon. So.
I used to work in the medical field, and
Oh yeah.
I would say better you than me, but that would be insensitive. So. How'd you injure it?
Wrestling.
Wrestling? Okay. Where do you wrestle?
I'm not gonna answer those
Okay,
types of questions. So.
Reason I'm out here, I received a complaint from the staff at the bank. Okay.
Yep.
They stated that you were inside the building filming.
No, never
No?
inside the building. Nothing like that.
Okay. So they said that initially you were outside on the sidewalk like you are right now, which is totally fine.
Yep.
But they said that you had come into the bank onto their property and you were filming inside the bank.
No, that seems like a false police report to me. So that's a crime. So I would definitely go investigate that. But yeah no.
And I'll definitely be following up with them as well.
All right.
Okay.
Now, it's important to bear in mind that the footage we are shown here begins with Constitution Cam outside of the bank, and we're expected to believe that he was never filming inside the bank. And obviously, he probably wasn't in the bank, or else the employee wouldn't have waited till he went outside to confront him about recording. But we can't be 100% certain of that. I have no reason to doubt that Constitution Cam is telling the truth, and I personally fully believe that he never entered the bank. But even if he had entered the bank and was told to leave, he obviously did. He went outside to the public sidewalk where he has every right to film whatever he can see. At this point, I'm not sure what crime Officer Higgins is even investigating. Filming inside a bank is not a crime, and it's clear that Constitution Cam didn't trespass on the bank's property. So as far as I can tell, he doesn't have any reason to detain Constitution Cam or suspect him of any criminal activity at all, really. Hey, before we get back to the video, I just want to take a second to ask you to hit that subscribe button. We are so close to getting a silver plaque, and any help would be sincerely appreciated. But anyway, back to the video.
So basically, I'm just making sure you're okay, making sure everything's good. They were concerned since you had obviously the sling and everything.
Oh yeah.
They stated, or they reported that they commented to you that they advised that you stop filming inside of the building. You told them that you couldn't stop, and that's when you left the building. Does any of that sound familiar?
No, I was actually right here. I put my camera down, and I was about to leave, and then I was turned this way, and then I heard one of them come out, and then like standing right here, and they said that I had to stop filming, and I just told her, yeah, I'm not gonna stop the camera. So, and then she went back in there.
So they came out to you while
Yep.
you were on the sidewalk
Yep.
and talked to you. Okay, that's fair. Do you mind just giving me your name so I can check to make sure that you don't have any warrants or anything crazy like that?
Just Jacob.
Okay. Well, I'm going to need your full name. Anytime I have contact with someone, I have to identify them.
I'm not gonna identify myself. I keep that information pretty private. So
the issue with that is I'm conducting an investigation regarding a complaint right now. Okay.
Yep.
So if you refuse to identify yourself, then I may have to take you into custody because you are failing to follow through with identifying yourself.
I mean, unless I've committed a crime, I don't identify myself.
That would be obstruction.
That's a secondary offense. You have to commit a crime
It would
before.
be obstruction if you fail to identify yourself when I'm conducting an investigation regarding you.
I'm gonna challenge you on that one. Do you have a supervisor that?
Absolutely.
All right, can
Absolutely.
he
I'll
come
have
out
him
here
stop
then?
out.
So here, Officer Higgins claims that refusing to ID is considered obstruction in Wisconsin. But the Wisconsin Supreme Court has actually ruled in the complete opposite direction as far as this goes. There are two Wisconsin laws that would probably be relevant here. Statute 968.24, which deals with police detentions, and Statute 946.41, which is Wisconsin's obstruction law. First of all, Wisconsin is not a stop and ID state, and Statute 968.24 only requires that citizens who have been suspected of a crime to give their name, address, and an explanation of their actions. The law does not require that the citizens show their ID at all, and citizens in Wisconsin are not required to show their ID unless they have been arrested or are being cited under probable cause. On top of that, Wisconsin's obstruction law really only pertains to giving an officer a false information. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court has already ruled that refusing to provide ID based solely on reasonable suspicion is not a crime. And that was in the 1995 case of Hennis versus Morrissey. So even if Officer Higgins did have reasonable suspicion that Constitution Cam had committed a crime, which he didn't, he would still not have the authority to order Constitution Cam to show his ID.
But you should definitely investigate that false police report, because that seems like a big waste of resources to me.
That is absolutely my intention. But you're the person that I had contact with first, so I wanted to get your side of the story before I go in and get their side of the story as well.
Well, you have my side.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I'm attempting to continue and follow up on.
All right.
Okay, so this is my supervisor. This is Officer
All right.
Abbott. Hi. Do
Badge
you mind-
number?
We don't have badge numbers. We have employee numbers, 252.
Oh, sounds good.
Okay. So I'm just going to kind of explain what's going on and everything and what you've told me thus
Yep.
far, and then we can go from there. So basically, I advised him of the complaint. He stated that he was never inside the bank, never on their property, only on the sidewalk.
Yep.
He stated that staff came out, had contact with him here. He advised them that he was not going to stop filming.
Okay.
I said, as long as he's not on their property, he's on the sidewalk, that's totally fine.
100%.
No issue with that whatsoever. I asked him to identify himself. He told me that his first name is Jacob. He refuses to identify himself any further.
Okay.
I told him that I am right here, right now, conducting an investigation regarding a complaint that I received from the bank. And if he were to refuse to identify himself, that could be considered obstruction. He states that that's secondary to the investigation and it does not matter. and does not want to identify himself at this
Nope,
time.
that's fine.
And that's when he asked if he could talk to a supervisor.
Nope.
So I said, absolutely.
Nope, super simple. They just said you were filming some of the people going through the ATMs. They thought it was an invasion of privacy. You might be trying to get some people's PIN numbers or something. That was their main concern.
Yeah, I don't even think this camera could.
Probably not.
Yeah,
Probably
no.
not. That was their main concern, was just privacy issues for people's bank accounts and stuff like that. I told them already that if you're on the sidewalk, you can film. There's no problem with that. I'm not going to force you to identify yourself or anything like that. They just don't want you on their property.
Yep.
So if you stay on the public sidewalk, you're good to go, man.
All right, yeah, sounds good. I was about to head out, but I'm just going to stick around a little bit longer so it doesn't look like I got chased away, and then, yeah, I'll be on my way.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
Do you have any other questions for us at all then?
Other than, I mean, it was definitely a false police report if they said that I was in there with the camera. So, I mean.
It didn't sound like you were in there. They said over by the ATMs is how they put it.
Oh, all right.
So that would be over by the ATMs. I don't know if you're actually on the property, but
Yeah.
Yep.
the only,
And like I said, I had contact with you and talked to you. I hadn't gotten information from them yet.
Yep.
All right.
Additional information. So that's
So
what
nothing
we've
that
got.
puts you against a state statute, city ordinance, nothing like that, where we can enforce identification. So no problem with that. Do your thing. Enjoy
All right.
recording. Just do me a favor, just stay out of the driveway.
Yep.
Obviously, due to safety issues, but if you
Yep.
want to record and do your thing, obviously that's your right. So,
Yep. I'm not getting in the way of anybody or anything like
all right,
that.
Jake. Any questions, man? Otherwise, we're gonna let you do your thing.
No, I don't think so.
All right,
Just-
take care of yourself.
Yep. Have a good one.
Good luck with the recovery on that shoulder.
Yep. Thank you.
The video pretty much ends here. Constitution Cam had a brief and friendly interaction with the sergeant and eventually left the scene without any further incident. Now, something that's worth pointing out is that the sergeant's recollection of the 911 call was quite a bit different from what Officer Higgins described it to be. The sergeant clearly said that the bank's employees never accused Constitution Cam of entering their building, but Officer Higgins basically said that that was the entire reason he was there. He was pretty specific about what the call that he had received supposedly said, and I find it particularly suspicious that the sergeant's version of the call was so different from Officer Higgins' explanation. I mean, there are a few different possibilities here. Either Officer Higgins or the sergeant could have misread or misinterpreted the information that they were given, or they could have been given completely different sets of information for all we know. Either way, there was a major breakdown in communication happening there on the part of the Watertown Police Department, or Officer Higgins was lying, neither of which are a good thing. I do have to give props to the sergeant here. He calmly listened to the situation and made an objective call based on the facts and an accurate interpretation of the law. And that's all we really want from police leadership, especially the ones who are directly overseeing the patrol officers. He stopped Officer Higgins from walking into a major lawsuit. Because if you remember the Morrissey case that we talked about earlier, not only did that case establish that refusing to ID did not constitute obstruction, but it also granted qualified immunity to the officers who were involved in that case. And that means that it will likely be extremely difficult for an officer to be granted qualified immunity under similar circumstances again. And Officer Higgins could have been taken to the cleaners if he had actually arrested Constitutional Cam for refusing to provide his ID. I like to imagine that the sergeant took Officer Higgins to the side after this and informed him about the shitstorm that he almost started, but hey, I'm a pretty optimistic person. So at the end of the video, Constitution Cam asked for some critiques about things that he could have done better. And so I'm going to throw my 2 cents at him, and you all can take it for what it's worth. So personally, I don't like the idea of auditing a bank. I don't like the idea of involving private citizens in audits at all. It just complicates the legality of the situation, and average people shouldn't be in the crosshairs of an act that is meant to target the government. You want the public to be your ally, not your enemy. And recording a bank, specifically an ATM drive-through, it makes people trying to use that ATM uncomfortable. And before you go typing the First Amendment doesn't care if you're offended or whatever in the comments, I completely understand that Constitution Cam and everyone else has a right to do that. But I also believe that failing to respect basic human dignity will only have a negative impact on the auditing community as a whole. Bothering citizens who don't work for the government in any capacity is not a good look for auditors. And I don't think anyone wants someone filming them while they're trying to put in their PIN at an ATM. It's not about the First Amendment or civil rights at all. It's just common courtesy. But hey, like I said, there's nothing legally wrong with filming a bank, and you're all free to do it. I just think that there are better places that could use auditing, like police departments, public parks, or city buildings. Or better yet, look up a story about bad policing from a nearby town. They're not hard to find. And go audit those police officers. Beyond that subjective critique, I think Constitution Cam did a fantastic job staying calm, refuting Officer Higgins' bogus claims, and allowing the sergeant to defuse the situation. Just keep at it, Constitution Cam. You're doing a great job, especially for someone your age. And if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to go give Constitution Cam your support and let him know I sent you. All right, so before we get out of here, I want to introduce a new segment to this channel that I hope you all will enjoy.
It's critique time! Critique time!
I often find myself wanting to respond to some of the critiques that I receive from the good people of the internet. But I don't want to waste your time with that if it's not something that you're interested in. So I'm going to start doing a new segment at the end of the videos on this channel so that I can respond when I feel like it's necessary without bogging down the video and making you click through something that you don't want to watch. On today's segment of Critique Time, we're going to be discussing the phrase stop an ID state, since so many of you had such nice things to say about it in the last video. All right, so the first thing I want to point out is that the phrase stop an ID state is just that. It's just a phrase. It's not meant to be taken at face value or to be taken as a definitive, non-nuanced statement. The phrase stop an ID state simply refers to the states where reasonable suspicion is the standard by which an officer can demand ID from the citizen that they interact with. In non-stop an ID states, that's also just a phrase, the police require more than just reasonable suspicion to have the authority to demand ID. In most non-stop an ID states, you have to be arrested before you are required to show your ID. There are no states in this entire country where a police officer can just walk up to you and demand to see your ID for no reason. And the phrase stop an ID state was formed under that fundamental truth. So you're all right. There is no states that are literally like Nazi Germany style stop an ID states, but that's not what this phrase is referring to. And to say otherwise is you're just arguing semantics. And look, I get it. This phrase gets a bad rap because some people don't possess the basic understanding that we live in a country where you can't just be stopped by the police for no reason. But that's not the intent of the phrase at the end of the day. And let me give you an analogy that I think will make this a little more clear. So when people say that a state is like an open carry state, they don't mean that you can walk around with a gun anytime, anywhere without any rules. They mean that the state allows open carry under certain legal conditions, like having a permit or not being in a restricted area. The phrase is just shorthand. It's the same thing with stop an ID state. It doesn't mean that cops can just walk up to you and demand your ID. It means that if police already have a lawful reason to stop you, that state's laws allow them to demand ID, and they can arrest or cite you if you refuse. But just like open carry, the phrase glosses over the legal nuance, and really that's where the arguments start. So when I say stop an ID state, I'm using the phrase to describe certain states and how their identification laws work. It's not to say that anyone in that state can be stopped by police at any time. Oh, one other quick thing that I saw in the comments of the last video is that a lot of people seem to be under the impression that Texas Penal Code 3802 was amended in a way that allows officers to demand ID when detained instead of when arrested. Texas is one of those states that doesn't require you to ID yourself to police unless you have been lawfully arrested. And yes, Penal Code 3802 was amended relatively recently, but it didn't change any of the language in the original code. The amendment just added another section that compels drivers who are being detained, as in involved in a traffic stop, to present their ID. This amendment didn't change anything in regards to how the law works for people who aren't driving. And pretty much every state requires you to ID yourself when you're the subject of a traffic stop. So this amendment's nothing shocking, and it was probably bound to happen one way or another. That's all I got for you today, folks. Let me know what you think about the critique time segment in the comments. And please be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed today's episode. We're so close to getting to 100K. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.